This morning, April 18th, 2024, the World Health Organization updated their terminology for pathogens that transmit through the air, aka airborne pathogens. I'm briefly going to go through the structure of the meeting and then jump into the meat and potatoes of it all. The meeting structure was about 10 minutes of a delayed start, followed by about 35 minutes of self aggrandizing. But the good part was that they were showing unified agreement and support for the new recommendations for the terminology. There was about 5 to 8 minutes of slides. That was the actual content of this, and then about 10 minutes of answering questions. The meeting was very careful to emphasize that this was applicable to all airborne diseases such as COVID, tuberculosis, measles, SARS, influenza, and other viruses or pathogens. However, while they use this to address all airborne pathogens, it is focused on COVID. During the first part of this meeting, the board members were very proud to emphasize their collaboration between the WHO and CERN, emphasizing how they developed a risk assessment tool for indoor airborne transmission, and that this online tool has been available for the past year. This was my first time hearing about that, and while it may exist, it is not accessible to the public. I tried signing in through my Google account and then also through a guest account, and it blocked me both times. It seems that you have to have a CERN email to be able to access this calculator or expert app. However, the code for this is open source and it's available on GitHub. So I'm going to have to go through and actually run this code to see what it can do. It'll be a fun little project for me, but I do not see this as a publicly accessible tool, as not everyone is going to have the knowledge base to be able to run this. So, for a little background, this is a global cooperation between the four major CDCs between Africa, China, European Union, and the United States. And they brought in numerous experts, approximately 100 international experts, spanning different disciplines such as fluid dynamics, physics, aerosol science, epidemiology, and etc. And the major impetus for this is that they believe there was confusion between airborne transmission, and droplet transmission, where they were quoted as saying that this led to very contentious discussions among people in the field, and that different disciplines had different definitions for this, and that's why we needed a standardized language to build from. So, 2 years ago, the World Health Organization said that, hey, we need to have unified language for this, and convene this panel, and it's taken 2 years to come to this state that we're at right now, which is supposed to be used as a launching pad. So this is just the groundwork after 2 years, where they want to move away from droplet and aerosol and lean into infectious respiratory particles. Because when an infectious person coughs, sneezes, breathes, they're going to create a turbulent puff cloud that is going to have a wide spectrum of different particle sizes, where some are going to form droplets, some are then going to aerosolize, which then leads to different forms of transmission, such as fomite or contact transmission, which can be direct or indirect, as well as aerosol transmission or inhalation, getting infected through the respiratory tract. And as I've been saying all along, it is not one or the other, it is both. With COVID, you have droplets and aerosolized particles, which is why I actually do like this infectious respiratory particle language, because you can get infected by either route. Where they have air transmission divided into two subcategories, which is airborne transmission or inhalation and direct deposition, where airborne transmission inhalation would be breathing in contaminated air, while direct deposition would be someone coughs and those particles would then land into your airway tract. And then there is contact transmission, which is not through the air, which can be direct or indirect. And this is a chart showing the different ways that they show that you can get infected by something, which is important because for the same transmission mode, different infection prevention and control measures may be needed. And then for some further clarity, there were 41 global experts, where they held 4 meetings, 3 virtual and 1 hybrid, and over 500 separate pieces of individual input were considered. So for me personally, I was a little skeptical going into this. I was like, I'm not sure how this is going to go. But in the end, I do like and agree with what was released. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that it took 2 years to come to that unified language. It reminds me of that scene in The Good Place, where they're like, yes, we're on an expedited plan. It'll take 500 years to form the committee. We think it's an aggressive timetable. But I still think this is very good clarification, because people have been saying, oh, COVID is only aerosolized. and that's the only route of transmission, which is not true. There's fomite transmission, which is contacting contaminated surfaces and then touching your mouth, picking your nose, rubbing your eyes, consuming foods that were prepared by someone that was infectious, and even maybe kissing animals that have been around an infectious person. So overall, I find this a good clarification, good language. It's just disappointing that it took so long for it to happen.